red lights go out and away they run and down towards us after a superb start as usual. James Dye, he was always a quick starter when he was in Super Teens, and he's carrying that on now. He's on board the Triumph, and here we are on board a Triumph with AJ Hutchinson. The young Irish rider has been carrying our cameras throughout the season, and bounding off to the left there, that was a bike disappearing westwards. Now it looks like Ben Cater, but we're going to have to pick that up in a few seconds' time. We saw the bike flying off there at the newest chicane at Mallory, and that's Charlie's on the way in and Stapleton's on the way out. But here the field coming up from the exit of Edwina's up through the John Cooper S's and then up this quite sharp hill into Shaw's Hairpin. Little bit of a kiss and a hug there between Steve Smith and James Dye, and I think Steve Smith will get the better of it. Now here's that replay. Keep your eyes on the top of the picture. Well, we see Michael Booth there going around the outside, and I think tangling with Ben Cater. It's Ben who's down there at Charlie's on the entry into that little complex. And there we see Ricky Chadwick, the current leader of the Triple Challenge. The challenge is for the over 25s. There's the yellow flags protecting the entry there, and we can see that already Ben Cater is with the marshals, and they're looking after that fallen bike as well. But up the front, despite the intimate moment at the top of the hill, it's James Dye who leads just from Steve Smith. Then James Wainwright, Rob Guinan, Jack Simpson there. There's Ricky Chadwick. And underneath us, there goes Guinan, Sim, Chadwick, and behind the leader, well, Steve Smith not quite as close this time up at Shaw's Hairpin. They really do have to slow right down, almost to dropping off speed there. Then through that flip-flop chicane of the bus stop, and then the sharp run down to the Devil's Elbow, onto the straight to complete another lap under that Jordan Road surfacing bridge, and into the long right-hander of Gerrard's. And behind there we can see Michael Booth, who after that first lap contact with Ben Cater, he is gradually making his way back up through the field. There is the Cater chicane, if you like. That was where he was lost in the action. We can still see marshals moving in the background there, but into Edwina's. The leading four breaking away slightly from the pack and setting a good pace. It's still James Dye, the championship leader, up the front, but no longer. He takes a wide line into Shaw's, and Steve Smith just stuffs it up the inside, holds it tight through once again the bus stop chicane, and it's Smith that leads now from James Dye, James Wainwright and Rob Guinan. All of these guys now race winners at one stage or another throughout the season, and James Wainwright looking particularly quick this weekend. But Steve Smith it is around the lake, and there's AJ Hutchinson, the young Irish rider who's our camera bike throughout this season. Brilliant shots from him as well. Now down into Edwina's under braking, and Steve Smith just hanging on to the lead there. James Dye having a real look at James Wainwright, almost taking the opportunity to nab second, couldn't quite find a way through. Rob Guinan desperate to stay in touch. He will not want to be dropped from this battle. Steve Smith very quick up the hill, settling down into that tight hairpin at Shaw's. I think that's probably the tightest hairpin on any British circuit. Down they go, Rob Guinan chasing the three leaders through that bus stop chicane. Somebody holding out a shopping list there from the pit board. Can't possibly call that pit board. Steve Smith then from James Dye, James Wainwright, and there Rob Guinan, and that four just getting a bit of daylight between themselves and the rest. Jack Sim, I think, still in fifth ahead. Ricky Chadwick and James, the two Jameses, James Wainwright chasing James Dye there, third and second respectively. And looking at the lap times, you really fancy James Wainwright is man on the move, and James Dye will be looking over his shoulder once or twice. James really and truly just needs a top three finish, and he needs to do it till the end of the season, and he will pick up the championship. He's got a good points lead at the moment, but he needs to stay on board and he needs to finish. However, being a racer, he just wants to finish first, and that's what he'll be looking to do, of course, for the rest of the season. Steve Smith and James Wainwright and Rob Guinan, they're all picking up good points of late. There's Jack Sim, he's already been a race winner this season in 5th place. There's Ricky Chadwick leading the challenge runners, but it's all Michelin young guns once again up the front. They're the under 25s. Steve Smith, and now look at this. I don't know whether Rob Guinan had a bit of a problem there coming out of the hairpin, but well, just keep an eye on him in the next few laps, because he seems to have lost touch with the leading 3, and I have to say that's odd. He's been running so well of late, and he's not the sort of rider to run backwards in these things. I'd expect to see him up there hustling the leaders, but for some reason he's not quite on it at the moment. So I would say mechanical rather than anything else. Here they come. Steve Smith, James Dye, James Wainwright. Look at that gap. Yes, this could be a problem for Rob Guinan. That gap has opened up tremendously, and you can see in the background Jack Sim, Ricky Chadwick, not that far behind him at the moment. Also making good progress, I should say, just at the moment anyways. Michael Booth recovering from that first lap clash with Ben Cater. Oh, look at that. Snaking around there, oh, and that's just enough for James Wainwright. He's through there. You give him half a gap. Thank you. London bus, I'll have that. In he goes, out he goes, and appropriately from the bus stop, James Wainwright up into 2nd. James Dye, championship leader. Now, remember, James Dye does not have to do anything too daft. He simply needs to sit there and score good points. This is what he needs for his championship, but he's out there racing, and he will do his absolute utmost to nick past James Wainwright if he can. The two of them absolutely together, but the little battle between them again allowing a bit of comfort to Steve Smith in the lead, and you can see how that gap has opened up. Of course, these bikes very, very even in terms of performance. They are all the same bike. Of course, they can be prepared by different teams as they are, but they have their little tweaks, but they're very closely controlled by the Triple Challenge organisers, and Tony Scott in particular. And so this really is a series as much about racing skill as any of them. Still Steve Smith in the lead, still James Wainwright now 2nd, and being harassed by James Dye. I thought Mr. Dye was going to have a bit of a dip then going into Charlie's, and you can see one little effort that doesn't come off, and suddenly that gap opens up. Looking back there, and it looks to me as though Rob Guinan may well have lost out on 4th place. James Wainwright last time through set a fastest lap, and in fact on the same lap James Dye actually went quicker. So James Dye is now in the process of being the first ever lap record holder on a triumph at Mallory, because this is obviously the first time they've been here. So a new lap record up for grabs, and it's that man there, number 7, James Dye, championship leader, who currently is quickest. He's done a 61.212. But James Wainwright pressing on, and he's not given up on the top step of the podium yet. He's right with Steve Smith. You remember just a lap or so ago how those gaps had opened out between them. Now look at it. Smith hanging on in there, and James Wainwright pressing as hard as you like, and he's closing, and he's looking down the inside as they come down the steppy straight into Edwina's. And in fact, James Wainwright has now got his bike in front, but he's off the peg. His foot's gone, he's run out of road, and Steve Smith squeezes back past him. James Wainwright, a rueful look over the shoulder. Yes, don't worry, mate, Jamie Dye's right behind you. That was phenomenal stuff, actually, by James Wainwright. His foot was completely off the peg. He was completely out of control in the middle of Edwina's, but he still managed to get back on board, glued into position, and maintain that 2nd place. Meanwhile, Steve Smith, having seen somebody in front of him for a couple of yards the first time in the race, just settles down and thinks, I'll reel this one off, and checker flag is out. A win for Steve Smith, and he loves that.